Welcome into a surprise edition of Embrace Debate here on a Monday, a beautiful Monday morning in Zamunda. Desmond Johnson here, your host. Cody Lachney from the Carolina Chronicles and Monty Fetti from the Four Man Rush joining me like they do every week here on the Fans First Sports Network on the Keep Pounding Podcast Network. Go find us on all your major podcast platforms. Go subscribe to YouTube's Tobacco Road Sports Radio channel, youtube.com/@Tobacco Road Sports Radio. Y'all already know what time it is. Y'all literally already know what time it is. If you haven't heard, if you're living under a rock and you're a Carolina Panther fan, news just dropped. Owner David Tepper's made the decision to let head coach Frank Reich go after a 1-10 start here in the 2023 season. And guys, this is one of these situations this morning where I've got you guys going on right now at 11:30. We have a special edition of Believe in Carolina Panthers that'll be on this channel as well, live with myself, Jonathan Stewart, and Skylar Callahan. Skylar Callahan is in the middle of putting out like 15 different articles regarding this and what he's coming back in with. So let's just get into it. I just want to get you guys fresh opinions on this because both of you have been very adamant over the past couple of months that this needed to happen and probably needed to happen before the season was over. Who wants first crack at this? Explain the emotions right now.
Look, man, I appreciate everybody joining. Hit that like no matter what channel you're on. Tobacco Sports C3. Hey, look, man, we all knew this was coming. Like we knew it was coming. Right now, Frank Reich or David Tepper rather had no other choice but to make this move right now. I mean, not only was this the worst roster in the NFL this year, but everything from the play calling, from the personnel decisions to firing Throckmorton in the middle of the season, even though he started 7 games for you. I mean, everything was continuing to digress and get worse and worse and worse. And shout out to my partner, Tony Dunn. The last time we spoke, which was yesterday, we did the post-game show. And, there's been this sentiment that, well, if you fire Frank Reich right now, what does that say to future candidates that are going to potentially come to Carolina? And what does that make this an attractive job? And, maybe you shouldn't fire Frank Reich for those reasons, so it doesn't look like they're going one and done every year. But then that doesn't even make sense because Frank Reich took a football team that was the worst in the NFL last year and made them even worse than they already are, or than they already were last year. So David Tepper really had no choice. Apparently he was cussing in the locker room after the game. So, I mean, this is par for the course, man. Now we're looking at what guy is going to be the next coach to come here. And personally, I think it's going to be either between Ben Johnson, who we know the Carolina Panthers interviewed last time in the process, or Bobby Slovic, who is the offensive coordinator for the Houston Texans right now. And look what their offense is capable of doing.
I would say, out of all that, what you just said, the one thing I would say, we weren't the worst team in the NFL last year. That's the crazy part. The Bears were the worst team in the league last year. We almost won the division, remember? Like, we traded up to one. So he took a team that was on the cusp of, and especially if you look at our division right now, like, even with all this being said, I think we're like 4 games out of first, 5 games out of first, something like that with 6 to go. He took that team and that roster and turned it into this. Like, I'll let you go before I chime in, Monty, but I ain't even gonna lie. I didn't even watch the game yesterday. I watched the first 2 drives, and when they got to midfield on that one drive early in the first quarter, and I think it was like 3rd and 1, like around midfield, and they called like this weird screen pass where Bryce literally turned around and threw it backwards. And
that was the first drive, dog. That was the first drive of the game.
I saw that, and I was like, I threw my hands up, and I was like, you know what? I'm not going to subject myself to this on this Sunday. And I left. I went and DoorDash for the rest of the afternoon and listened to it on the radio so I could hear Anisha's call with Luke Kuechly on the radio. And I'm glad I did, because as I was listening to it on the radio, I'm like, if I've checked out when I have to do multiple podcasts on the Panthers and talk about them on multiple shows each week, and I can't even sit there and watch a game. I was driving around yesterday thinking this is it for Frank Reich. Like, I don't think this is going to last past Tuesday. So you go, Monty. Give me your thoughts, because I know you've been very adamant on Twitter about this needed to be done.
Oh, bro, I'm as excited as you can be to be 1-10. I'm excited, bro. Again, we've talked about this for months now, and I think we all knew it was coming. I think that next got to be Scott Fitter, got to be next, man. But yeah, I mean, it had to have happened. had to have fired him. We had to have get him out of there. And like you said, man, this thing, as the season goes on, that was the difference between this year and last year. Even with Matt Rule, I'll be honest, even with Matt Rule, as the season goes on, we still have some spurts, here and there to where we look competent.
Yeah.
We look like we're a decent team and at least an average team at best. There was no point of this the 11 games here that Frank Reich coached that we looked even average. We've looked terrible from the start of the season, and it looks like we're getting worse. Now, granted, we are beat up at a lot of different positions. We are injured. But, yeah, man, you don't come in here, take over a team. And, again, he may not have promised the playoffs. He may not have promised, us being a playoff caliber team or a contending team. But you don't come in here with the stance that you all came in here this offseason. Win one game out of your first 10 games, and then get grace and keep a job. And again, Scott Fitter isn't free of criticism, or I believe he's going to be the next fire. So I believe both of them need to be a pair in firing. But yeah, man, I'm happy to see Scott Fitter. I mean, I'm happy to see Frank Reich go. And I'll be honest, I know we said Ben Johnson, bro. What we don't need to fall into is making the same mistake twice. You got a Vero sitting on your team right now,
dude.
And everybody keeps saying is going to be a stud head coach. I'm sorry to say it, bro. I would love Ben Johnson here. Vero, he knows his team, he knows his roster. That's your head coach for the future. That's my opinion. You're like, don't make the same mistake twice. Do the same thing with Wilkes. Don't make the same mistake twice.
I'm actually glad they didn't make Ejiro the interim head coach, because it would have been literally the exact same situation as last year. At least by making, for those who don't know, Chris Tabor, the special teams coach, is now going to be the interim head coach. Jim Caldwell's coming down from the tower or wherever he's been to assist with Thomas Brown, who will retake over play calling duties on offense. And I'm kind of glad that David Tepper did not make, because all of us, I think, are all thinking the same way. Like, you don't even have to go out of house for this. Like, go give it to Ejiro and let him put this back the way it's supposed to be. A defensive-minded team, run the ball, stop the run, help Bryce out, build both the lines, that kind of thing. That seems like the smart thing to do, but I'm kind of curious because Scott Fitter is still here. And we've kind of all got to the point with the roster where we're like, well, Scott Fitter kind of built this roster, maybe Frank Wright, but it felt like Fitter was the decision maker on a lot of these, and they are woefully thin at multiple spots. I know they've got a lot of injuries going on, and they've had that all year, but other teams have injuries too, and they've been able to survive and figure it out. And we've gotten, to your point, Monty, I can even say this about Matt Rule's teams. Matt Rule's teams at least kind of progressed the first couple of years, like through the year. You kind of saw some progression with the offense. The defense was top notch pretty much most of the time he was here. It never flatlined. This team has flatlined. Like, this looks like August. Like, they literally look like what they did in August.
I mean, remember when we were talking about why does the offense look so terrible in the preseason? And then we were like, oh, they're going to save all the big guns and the big plays for when the season rolls around. Listen, I hate to be a skeptic, but I don't necessarily know that Fitterer is getting the bounce. And the reason why I don't think so, I believe that David Tepper says jump, and Scott Fitterer says how high, boss.
Yes,
I think that's his right-hand man, and he knows that he's got a guy that's going to do literally whatever he wants. So I truly don't even know if Fitterer is going to be out the door. Look, when it comes to the next head coach, look, I understand everybody is talking about Rivero, and I wouldn't mind that either. But I mean, let's also think of it this way: the reason why you went out and got a Frank Reich was because you wanted an offensive-minded head coach to be able to pair with your quarterback for the foreseeable future.
And it didn't work.
Yeah, because you made the wrong hire. Okay, so now you're going to tell me that if we couldn't get another offensive mind who actually knows what he's doing, that you wouldn't want to pair him with Bryce for the foreseeable future? Because now you're doing this thing. But now you're doing this thing. Let's say the team becomes real good, but then whenever the offense has a good year, you're going to be turning around play caller after play caller after play caller. Now going into next year, Bryce will be on his third head call, on his third play caller. Like, that is not sustainable for your quarterback that you're trying to develop.
But that's the card that's been dealt. I mean, I understand what you're saying in hindsight. Yeah, it sucks to go that route, but that's the hand that's been dealt. Like, he's going to have to deal with that either way. And to be honest, why does the next head coach have to be offensive minded to help Bryce?
Right.
Look, they just find an offensive coordinator that can help him and actually deal with just Bryce instead of the entire team, like we just saw with Frank Wright. I'd rather Thomas Brown was interviewing for head coaching jobs.
Because then you're replacing that guy as soon as the Panthers have an offensive season that's worth something.
That's not necessarily true, man. But look at it. Look at Houston. Houston has a defensive minded coach, and they're smoking right now.
Yeah.
You're not necessarily every single year that you're good on offense, you're going to lose your offensive coordinator. That's not true, bro. But at the same time, I'm going to be honest. I don't care if he's an offensive minded coach or defensive minded coach. I want a good head coach in general. And Vero looks like he checks all those boxes. You know, it looks like he came in checking all those boxes. And let's be honest, if any unit should be bad on this team, it should be the defensive unit. And the defensive unit is playing well with lost his number one corner, lost his starting middle linebacker, doesn't have a pass rusher opposite Brian Burns. You're really down to your fifth cornerback now, and you're still playing good ball. You just held a decent team to 17 points. I don't understand.
I don't understand how the defense is doing this. The defense has been the bright spot this entire season. Really.
If Vero should be the leading
candidate. Mm-hmm. Playing with bums. Well, not bums.
Yeah, no JC Horn, no Jeremy Chin. Brian Burns has missed some time. Xavier Woods has missed some time.
CJ Henderson's had a concussion for 2 weeks.
I hear you. If I'm a Vero though, if I'm anyone with this organization, I don't know why you'd want to stick around. Seeing how David Tepper has handled this organization, what do you really think is going to happen? I can't imagine who wants to be a part of this.
Are you guys upset that they didn't? I'm seeing first of all, there's a lot of people. Apparently we weren't the only three that was waiting on this day to come. There's a lot of people in the comment section from all over the place. Shout out to everybody that's stopping by and still growing as we go. Stick around 11:30, a live Believe in Panthers episode with myself, Skylar Callahan, and Jonathan Stewart will be on this channel right here. So don't go anywhere. We'll have even more. Skylar will have some info from Sports Illustrated. We'll get the player thoughts from Jonathan Stewart. Are you guys upset that they didn't promote Evero? Because I'm seeing a lot of people in the comment section going that it's kind of a slap in the face that they didn't make him the interim head coach. Chris Tabor's got a lot of experience, and I don't expect Chris Tabor to be in the running for this job when the season's over. He's kind of like the babysitter at this point.
Right.
And Jim Caldwell's coming down to help Thomas Brown. It's almost like those things we said at the beginning of the year when they built this staff, that they had some fail safes in place in terms of if something happened, then we can still, be okay from within the building. And that feels like what's happening right now with Jim Caldwell coming down to help with Thomas Brown. Do you think there's going to be a difference in the offense we see with 6 games left?
Not really. To be honest, I'm as excited as I am that Frank Reich got fired. I'm still tempering my expectations. I still don't think Thomas Brown still wasn't a great offensive coordinator either.
He really was. We need to address that. He didn't do any better than Frank Reich did. So
he wasn't. That was never gonna be.
Right. He was never a great, but to be fair, he was never set to win. Just like a lot of coaches are. So I'm not really upset that Tabor got and let's be honest, Tabor is a good coach. Our special teams has arguably been the best unit on our team over the last 2 years as well. So you can't be. I'm not mad that Tabor got the position. And again, like you said, Des, I don't think that he's going to be in competition to get the head coach position next year. It's just for the time being, the last 7 games or last 6 games, however many games we have to play left, he's going to be the interim head coach. So I don't think that has any real say what happens next year. But I do think that if I'm Tepper, Vero's number one on my list as guy. And again, Tepper's already proven he's going to pay guys at whatever they want. So
it don't mean nothing to him.
Man.
Vero
know he's going to get paid. Whether that's what he'll say. He's going to get paid. So
I see that sentiment all the time. People are like, oh man, we can't go after a Harbaugh or whatever because he's going to be paying out all these coaches or whatever. David Tepper's worth $17 billion. It's nothing.
And he needs to pay. How about this? He needs to pay.
Yeah.
He needs to pay. He needs to feel as bad as us Panther fans do. And it's still not going to be as bad because, like Desmond just said, he's worth billions of dollars. Like the guy literally just signed a check for the Panthers and bought him outright. So who cares how much money he has to spend? and again, I hear y'all's argument for Evero. And if we do make him the head coach, I promise you I'm not mad at it. But I think now David Tepper needs to open up the pocketbook yet again. He needs to go out and overspend for a guy like Ben Johnson or for a guy like Slovic, who come from that Kyle Shanahan style of offense, which is not only taking over the NFL right now, but I've said that the best opportunity for Bryce Young to be successful is if you build an offense like the 49ers have or like the Miami Dolphins have. And they're both running that Shanahan style of offense. Do the same thing for Bryce, and let's start moving.
Well, the main problem with that, though, is that they don't have the players. They don't have the players to run that. So even if they do switch the scheme, they still don't have the players to run that 49er scheme or the Dolphins scheme. We just saw with the 49ers what happens in that scheme when you don't have Deebo Samuel, you don't have McCaffrey, when you don't have George Kittle out there. Like, it turns into a pumpkin pretty much. So, I mean, you still need players.
You're going to need at least 2 off seasons of drafts and free agency to build this team back up. And David Tepper has to know that whoever the next coach is, literally no matter what happens, you cannot one and done him again. You have to be certain about your next coach. I'm
going through the comments here. Kristen asked, says Wright's been wanting out since week 5, in my opinion. I think Brown wants out too. It's so bad. If you go back and listen to some of the press conferences that Frank had over the past 3 or 4 weeks, and I think I said it either on here or on one of the other million shows I've been having to do, I felt like he was going down the road that Matt Rule was going down in his last weeks in terms of stuff he was saying. And somebody mentioned it earlier in the comments. It's so far up on the comment thing, I don't know if I can find it again, that apparently, I guess, Wright threw the defense under the bus in the post-game press conference last night.
He threw Chark under the bus for sure.
Chark
kind of responded, so I don't know.
I saw that in terms of that last play where he was basically saying that they had a play. Wright's checked out of it. Audible. Of course, it was a screen pass because it's Frank Wright. So he's checked out into a screen pass. It made no sense on 3rd and 6 or 4th and 6 or whatever it was. And Chark was saying that the original call probably would have worked better than the check down. Frank was saying that the check down was the right call to make. I'm saying, why is he checking into a screen pass? Like, why is that the other option? Like, why is it not something else when you're trying to do this? And again, I go back to that play, first drive. I saw it. I think Joe Person just put out like a random comment when it happened. It was like, what the hell was that? And I knew exactly what he was talking about when I looked at it on Twitter. I know the exact play that you're talking about. What is this? This doesn't make any sense. It was like it looked almost like Jonathan Mingo missed a block, like ran out too far, and the dude came behind him. And Mingo looks like he's looking for somebody to block, but he missed the initial guy that was supposed to come. And that's the guy that tackles whoever it was that caught the ball in the backfield 5 yards deep in. But it was the fact that it wasn't even a pitch. It was an overhand. Bryce turns around and throws it backwards to the running back. So say the running back doesn't catch it. That's a fumble. That's literally a fumble right there midfield. And you only needed a yard. It was 4th and
that was what ticked me off. It was like, dude, on 3rd and 1, you run a pitch, and it's not even a pitch. Like you said, it was a backwards lateral. Like you throw a backwards lateral on 3rd and 1, and like none of it made sense.
With
man.
This line that can't block, like, I mean,
against a defense that's good against the run. I like none of it made sense, bro. And it was
that's when it changed. That's when I was just like, I'm not giving you my time anymore. And if I can do that, I couldn't imagine how many other Panther fans checked out yesterday. So,
look, we've been doing C3 for a long time now. Every single Sunday, we get people in our cat calls saying, I didn't even watch. Kind of like what you just said, Desmond. It's like, why bother? Yeah. Like, I could spend my time doing a bunch of other things, adulting, getting chores done, or doing whatever, rather than watch this team be miserable.
It's the same game. It was the exact same game we've watched for the past 10 weeks. What was the score at the start of the 4th quarter? 17-10 or whatever it was, or around that mark, around the same time the game it always is. They're down in possession. Something's going to happen. They're not going to convert. They're going to lose the game, and you're going to come away from it like, that's a winnable game when you look at the box score. But really, it wasn't. It really wasn't a winnable game. Like, if a team can score 17 points on the Panthers, the game is over. Like, the Panthers can't score 17 points. And that is an indictment on Frank Wright, because Frank Wright was the offensive guru that was coming in here with all these offensive gurus. They were going to change the mentality of the Panthers. I hear what you're saying, Cody, about you want a guy like Ben Johnson or somebody in here. I want us to go back to the roots of what the Carolina Panthers are. If David Tepper is serious about modeling this franchise behind the Pittsburgh Steelers, you know what you don't do? You don't hire an offensive-minded head coach. You go get a defensive-minded head coach, and you play run the ball, stop the run, because you're going to win the game more often than you lose it when you play that and you've got the players for it. You've got the people on your staff already to just promote. Don't make it a big deal. You went through this whole coaching search and had guys coming in and out, and there's a big, huge pageantry or whatever. Don't do that. Just promote. If this is a simple decision, just promote Ejiro or email Steve Wilkes and be like, hey, yo, my bad. You want to try this again? And
Steve Wilkes is
No
not
way
coming
Steve
back
Wilkes comes
here,
back.
dog. And no way Steve Wilkes is ever coming back to anything having to do with David Tepper, man. And look, I hate to bring up this can of worms again, but I think this has been sour since the moment that Frank didn't get his quarterback. I'm sorry. I'm still a believer that Bryce Young was not the one that Frank Reich wanted, but that was the one that the front office wanted. And Frank has no fight in him. He's like, whatever, they want Bryce, we'll go with Bryce. I mean, every time that Frank has had a quarterback before, they've been bigger quarterbacks with stronger arms. And then now all of a sudden, over the course of one draft, he preferred a 5'10 quarterback that's more running the offense rather than pushing the ball downfield. I just don't buy it, man. I just don't buy it. I think that's where the disconnect starts.
Ball downfield in college, though. I mean, so let's not
like Stroud.
I mean, but I mean, Bryce didn't struggle at all pushing the ball downfield. I mean, you can compare this to CJ all we want, but they both pushed that ball downfield at a high rate in college. I mean, that's
what I understand. Like it's almost like he's scared to throw it down there.
Yeah, let's not create that narrative, bro. I mean, because honestly speaking, bro, if we're gonna have that conversation or have that narrative, sure. If that was not his coach or his quarterback, then we did absolutely right by firing him, then, man. Because I honestly don't want to hear the talk about, well, he didn't get the right quarterback, because beforehand he told all of us he liked all four quarterbacks. He can get the best out of all four quarterbacks. So now don't tell me now, oh, he didn't get his quarterback. Well, guess what? You told us you could do well with Levis. You told us you would do well with Bryce, CJ, or AR. So I don't want to hear that. He's
going to say that in a press conference. He's not going to not say that in a press conference to a room full of media and then shoot himself in the foot.
Don't tell me now here 6 months later because you're trash that you didn't get your right quarterback. Because again, if we start winning, then what the argument is going to be? I got the right quarterback now because we drafted the right quarterback.
Yeah, you can't.
So now don't tell me 6 months later now that it's the wrong quarterback because you just lost your job. No, you're just a terrible head. For that matter, you got fired at your last job because you couldn't identify and draft a quarterback. That's why you got fired from Indy. Like, you were blessed and got signed the contract with a team.
You're missing my point completely. I'm saying that when Frank Reich came to this organization and didn't put his foot down enough for the quarterback that he actually preferred. And by the way, I'm not making this up. There are multiple reporters that have put out the same thing, that the coaching staff didn't want the quarterback that they drafted.
All speculation. And again,
yeah, it's only speculation to you because you don't believe it. That's the only reason why you're calling it speculation. I'm saying that was the moment. That was the moment. That was the moment when the
Cody,
whole
can
died.
you prove or disprove that Frank Reich wanted him or not? Yes or no?
How about this? This is what I can prove. Now you're going to have to make sure that whoever your next head coach is, be them offensive minded or defensive minded, that they're going to be just as sold on Bryce Young as the front office is.
So what?
All right, so that might not be everyone. You might want an offensive-minded head coach that can see the value of what Bryce Young could one day become, rather than a quarterback like, for example, Steve Wilkes. He wanted Josh Allen over there in Arizona. He also wanted the bigger, stronger style quarterback. So whoever you bring in, they have to be first and foremost sold on Bryce Young over everyone else.
I don't think they're bringing anybody in. Like, to be honest, like, the money's already been spent on the staff. I'm telling you, they're going to promote somebody from the staff this time around. If anything, the main thing David Tepper's going to hear from all this and this blowing up in his face is that he should have promoted Steve Wilkes, who was already on his staff last year. You got the same situation right now, but with a younger prospect that's already been interviewing for head coaching prospects at Evero. Like, I'm telling you, he's the dude. Get him. Like, there's no coincidence that we've been seeing Thomas Brown and Ejiro Evero in these press conferences on Wednesdays, I think it is, when you see the coordinators. And it was almost like a test run, like to just hear how they sound. Listen to how they sound and compare them to what Frank Reich has sounded the past couple of weeks. They sound like head coaches in waiting. Like, they literally sound like they've got a pulse of what's going on with the team. It never sounded like Frank had a pulse for the team. It sounded like he was a spokesperson, that he was just speaking on behalf of the team. Yeah. But I never caught a vibe that
never understood the identity of the Carolina Panthers.
Yeah,
I mean,
and that's how he knew it. Yeah, we were told he knew that.
Stuff like when he says, "Oh well, we drew up a play, but it was only for one receiver." Or that's how you get stuff like, oh yeah, we're trying to run the ball at will, but we're not trying to be a power. Like, dude, you don't even know the identity of the guys you have on your team. Nonetheless, talking about quarterbacks, like that's honestly the conversation we need to be having. Not picking the right or wrong quarterback is bro. You have so many professional athletes saying, bro, there's no way you can even evaluate Bryce right now because the situation is so bad. And we're talking about bad quarterbacks. No, we're talking about, bro, Frank Reich. You handpicked this staff. You handpicked these players. You went and got you saying and got Sanders. You went and got Chark. You went and got Adam Thielen. These are guys you wanted. Yep. You had Deontay Foreman wanting to be back here, and you didn't sign them. So before we talk about getting the wrong quarterback, let's talk about the wrong players you picked out before the draft even started. You physically went and got these guys. So don't tell me, oh, now Bryce is the wrong guy for you. No, bro, you're just the wrong.
Fitterer had no say so
for the NFL.
Fitterer had no say so, and all of the guys.
Fitterer just needs to be fired too.
Like, you're putting that all on right. But that's only if you believe that everything that they're doing is in lockstep with one another. That we all know that David Tepper tells Fitterer what to do, and then Fitterer does it. That's why we didn't go and get a Leonard Floyd. We didn't go and get a Jadeveon Clowney. We didn't go and get a DeAndre Hopkins because Fitterer told David Tepper, oh, Bryce is the type of quarterback. He doesn't even need these big-time wide receiver prospects. He can elevate the wide receivers around him. Well, that's turning out not to be true, and they're having to fix everything that they thought they were doing.
It's not turning out to not be true, bro. You can't win with trash, bro. Period. Like all these quarterbacks that y'all keep mentioning, bro. Matter of fact, we're sitting there talking about C.J. Stroud. C.J. Stroud got arguably the best rookie receiver on his roster. Let's stop.
Yeah,
the
that
nonsense,
they
bro.
drafted.
Like you can't.
And Stroud also endorsed him too. Stroud went to them and said, "Hey, go and get Tandell."
So now we take the endorsement of your rookie quarterback over a GM that's supposed to be that came from a Seattle team that knows how to draft. Stop it.
I'm starting to wonder.
The logic that you're using don't even make sense, Cody. Because like I said,
it takes balls. He said, "Hey, I want that guy. I want to throw the ball to that guy," and he was right. He stood up for himself.
I'm wondering how much Fitterer was really involved in Seattle after watching this, because we gave him a lot of credit coming from Seattle, and we kind of said, "Oh, he helped build the Legion of Boom and all this stuff." Did he? Did he really do that, or was it really more Pete Carroll and John Schneider that did a lot of that stuff? Because this ain't it, Scott. This ain't it. Like this, you're next. I hope he knows he's next, because whatever's going to happen, I think what's going to happen, instead of them both getting fired the same day, if they lose another 2-3 games, and to be honest, looking at the schedule, unless there's a complete flip around in mentality like it was last year, which I don't see with 6 games left and the way the roster is decimated, I think Fitterer is going to be gone at the end of the season. Like
it should be.
At the end of the season, they'll let him go through the end, then they'll let him go, and then they'll hire a GM first, and then they'll hire a coach, and that'll be what they're supposed.
They should be, and that should have been the thing that they've done to begin with. Like I said, when we were talking about this months ago, like Fitterer shouldn't be fired, and then Frank keeps his job, and the same should be like. Frank Reich shouldn't be fired, and then Scott Fitterer keeps his job. They both should be a pair firing.
Yeah.
Like no matter if it happens right now or it happens at the end of the season, I'm not grandstanding for Fitterer, but I'm also not caping for Frank saying he got the wrong quarterback. No, dude, you just wasn't a good head coach. And again, it's not even Carolina Panthers that feel that way. When you go back, when he got fired, all Indianapolis coach said the exact same thing that we're seeing now. Bro, he has no backbone. You have players saying the same. Like Charles Johnson just said today that he's hearing reports that, bro, he's soft. He has no backbone. Indianapolis fans and Indianapolis players said the exact same thing. He has no backbone. So
why would you fight for the quarterback that he actually preferred in the draft?
I see a lot of Indianapolis
and he just had everything dictated to him. That was the original disconnect. He was never willing to fight for how he actually wanted to build this roster. We don't even know who he wanted in free agency. We don't even know. So, Monty, you just sit there and say, oh, you wanted DJ Chark. You wanted all these players that they bring. But you don't know that. That's just as much speculation as anything else. Fitterer is the one that has supplied this roster the past 3 years in a row. And
so
if Frank Reich deserves to be fired,
so what you're saying is Cody, both of them should be fired then, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, then. So what are we arguing? Okay, because I agree that they both should be fired. What are we talking about?
Like, we're all in agreement here that they should be fired. This whole thing has been a garbage fire, a dumpster fire. Like 4 months ago, us and a lot of the national media were like, this is the best place possible for Bryce Young to win.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, in terms of what they put together, They revamped some stuff. They kept the offensive line that we were all raving about. We thought this was a top 10 offensive line back in August. You know what I'm saying? Like from based off of last year and what they did. For Frank to come in and know the offensive line is the strength of the offense and to literally do the opposite of what they do the best. That's Skylar says this literally every week. Round peg square or square peg round hole. Like literally that's what they were trying to do all year. He was trying to imply his system on top of these players that did not fit his system. Like, and some of this stuff, to Cody's point, some of this stuff is we can kind of deduce David Tepper pushed more than he did on some of the other things, like us switching to a 3-4. That's a David Tepper request. He wanted us to go to a 3-4. Why? Because the Pittsburgh Steelers ran a 3-4 for the past 65 years, and they've had success with it with 6 Lombardis or whatever. So he wanted us to move to that. Problem is, we're not a 3-4 defense. We never have been. We never had the way to put that together, and it's shown in the middle of the line all year this year with people running up our gut because we don't have the resources for it. Frank wanted to run a spread offense. We don't have a spread offense personnel. No. Like we don't have it. So why are we still trying to run it?
And again, that's why everything feels to me like David Tepper forced every single decision onto the Carolina Panthers. And again, man, I'll go back to this. The original plan, and this is confirmed. This is not speculation what I'm about to say. The original plan was to move up not to number 1, but to number 2. Because the Bears and the Houston Texans, they were going to swap spots. And everybody knows that the Texans wanted Bryce Young. So if you already know that the Texans are going to move up, well, then that tells me that you intend to move to number 2 for someone for a different quarterback. It all changed when they did go to number 1. Because David Tepper didn't want the egg on his face when you pass on the consensus, quote-unquote consensus, number 1 overall quarterback.
That's not necessarily.
And that's what you pushed on everyone.
I think it was confirmed that Houston had backed out of the deal. Houston no longer wanted to move. They were no longer wanting to deal with us.
No, it's not that they backed out. They took too long. They never backed out of it. They were going to do that.
The way Tepper explained it.
That they no longer wanted it to be. That's why it took so long. That's why the deal took so long. So they no longer wanted to deal. So you now to your point, Cody, you can make the argument that teams know that they can just fleece us at any time. So that's why they backed out, and that's what ended up happening. We just got fleeced. Like I mean, let's just be honest. That same thing happened with San Francisco. Like, dude, teams know that we weren't going to get, or no team was going to offer us a first round pick, and we were just thirsty to get Christian McCaffrey out our roster, and then we end up making the wrong decision there. It's the same thing. Teams know that David Tepper and Scott Fitterer are just terrible at running this team. So what do? They fleece us. And that's
can I just say, how about this? It doesn't matter if it's Bryce or CJ. The Panthers were not ready to trade up.
No.
This roster was not in the right position to move up and give a quarterback the right situation for them to thrive.
Somebody sold David Tepper on the idea of if we just get a quarterback, we're fine. Look at the past 3 years. The one thing we didn't have was a quarterback. So they did everything they could to get a quarterback, but they mortgaged the farm. Like I swear, the Christian McCaffrey trade is going to go down as the worst trade in Carolina Panthers history. Like I really feel that way. And DJ Moore is going to be right behind it because there was no reason to trade Christian McCaffrey when you traded him. There was no head coach here. There was no head coach here when you traded him. You had an interim here. You just fired the head coach 7 days ago. And now you're in a hurry to trade McCaffrey when he's finally healthy. Like you just saved 2 years of his career by him not playing, and you paid him, and you're going to trade him for what? You didn't even get a personal pick out of it.
I'll say this: we were in position to draft a quarterback at 9, and his name was Will Levis. That's what we was in position to draft.
I'm not going to rewrite history. None of us wanted Will Levis.
That would have kept you with Chris McCaffrey and DJ Moore.
Nobody
wanted that mayonnaise eating man. Like no, you were making jokes about him.
That's cool, y'all. Look, just hear me out. Y'all don't want him, and now watch he go to Tennessee and hoop. Like we cannot. Let's say we be too bougie for guys for no reason.
He hooped against the Panthers, Monty. Against. And by the way, if you're gonna take your victory laps on Will Levis looking okay in 2 or 3 games, then I have every right to say that I can take a victory lap over CJ Stroud.
I'm telling you what they
better than Bryce Young.
I'm telling you what they should have did. They should have did everything.
Cody, you do your victory lap and then try to trash one quarterback while praising the other quarterback. That's corny. Like, I mean, you can. I'm not trashing anybody.
Everyone's playing bad, Monty.
Guys,
everyone is playing bad. Everyone.
all they had to do was
not
say
even
the
having a real
source.
conversation at this point, bro.
But y'all just saying you can't ever say anything wrong about the quarterback or say that he ever does anything wrong.
That's not true. But again, Cody, it's not even just me that feels like that one that you're engaged with. I'm not the only person that feels that way. And then two, again, I'm not even the only person that says, bro, the situation is almost impossible to evaluate Bryce. It'd be different if I was the only person that felt that way. Then you would have a point. When you have a Hall of Fame tight end saying the same thing, we have a 3-time Super Bowl old lineman saying the same thing. That kind of says that maybe you're just talking and maybe I have a point.
Luke was saying the same thing on the radio broadcast yesterday, that it's almost impossible to kind of evaluate Bryce because of all and everything. That does not give Bryce Young a pass. Like, Bryce Young is not playing very well either, and I will say that. Now, there's some things that Bryce can do in game a little bit better. He still has zero awareness in the pocket when he's about to get sacked. Like, I don't know where that's coming from. He still does not climb the damn pocket. I'm sorry. I watched it all day yesterday. He stands there. He stands and throws flat foot from wherever he caught the ball and shotgun. He does not climb up in the pocket. I don't want people on Twitter like they were last week saying that he ain't got no pocket to climb up in. I'm not talking about those plays. I'm talking about the plays where he has time and he doesn't climb the pocket. He stays in the same place.
Can I say the thing that I know?
Plenty of plays where he could have did it.
And the thing that I know he doesn't want to hear is that we moved up for a quarterback that has average to subpar arm talent.
That's not true.
Like, that's the part. That's the part that they had Adam Thielen wide open across the middle, and Bryce couldn't get the ball to him before it was damn near double coverage.
Rex Ryan made a good point today.
To support Cody. Like, show me.
There is now. You can say nothing all you want.
You look at all 22 film.
It's on the film. Yeah, I upload all 22 film every Thursday.
Okay, bro. Like I said, bro, there's nothing to support that. That's not true at all.
Leonard says, yes, looks like Bryce throws flat-footed. Thomas says, we gave away too much to get Bryce. Now can't put any talent around him. Rex Ryan made an excellent point on Get Up this morning as the stuff started to drop, him and Dan Orlovsky. And Dan Orlovsky has been one of the biggest supporters of Bryce Young this season, like in terms of his film and he's put out there. He's like, this isn't really all on Bryce. But Rex has never been a fan of Bryce Young because of his size. And he was like, I see people comparing him to Kyler Murray all the time, and you can't do that. Kyler Murray is not small. Kyler Murray is short, but he's not small. He is stocky.
Wide.
Like, he can, he's
a lot better athlete too.
Bryce Young is small.
And he can run away from you.
Yeah, Bryce Young can't run away from defenders. No. He does not have elite speed like that, which would separate him. His size wouldn't matter if he could actually run away from defenders. I've watched defensive ends, 290-pound defensive ends, run this dude down from behind with ease. Like,
I just seen him put 2 dudes on skates last night, and y'all talking about he can't run away from people.
All right, but whatever. He's not doing that at a high level. My problem is
y'all only talk about 1 or 2 plays where he doesn't run away from people. But then y'all ignore the times where he in fact does escape the pocket.
Bro, he's getting sacked.
So y'all saying he's only done it 1 time?
He's getting sacked like
Monty, I'm saying if we drafted Bryce Young at number 9, it'd be fine. I have no issue. But you're going to trade away DJ Moore, Christian McCaffrey, and the first overall pick in 2024 for an undersized quarterback with subpar arm talent that doesn't have any physical traits that set him apart from anyone else.
The only reason franchise back a couple years,
100%. The only reason you draft
Bryce Young, they may have set this franchise back 2-3 years.
The only reason you drafted him was because of how fast he processes the game of football, and so far, that is not what he's doing at all.
I forgot that from Andrew. We tried to get Orlovsky to be the quarterback coach. I do remember that he mentioned that he did interview here. And keep an eye on that. That might be something they go back to down the road here. Just to get out of here, because I've got Believe in Panthers here starting right now. Real quick, going around. Don't need complete detail. Who do you want to be the next head coach for the Carolina Panthers 2024? Jero.
Yeah, Jero.
Cody.
I'll say Bobby Slovic.
I'm going to go with where I was at this point last year. Bring Jim Harbaugh to me. Bring him here. Bring him to – I don't care if he wants full control. I don't care if he wants to be the GM. I don't care. Bring me Jim Harbaugh.
Get suspended, so, you might as well bring him in here.
Bring him on in here. He ain't going to be at Michigan next year. Let Michigan win the national championship, Jim Harbaugh's not going back to Michigan. He's going to come to the NFL, and it's going to be us or the Bears. Come here. He even inquired here last year. Remember, he was inquiring about the role while Steve was the interim head coach. He called in. Was like, "Yo, what's up with this? What's going on?"
Right now, the Bears look way more attractive than us.
They do. They really do, which is sad. because of us.
Yeah.
We gotta get out of here. We gotta get out of here. We might do another one later on this week, depending on what happens with everything. We normally are on Thursdays, so we'll see what pops on with that. Stay here on youtube.com/@Tobacco Road Sports Radio. Believe in Panthers starts up here in about 2 minutes, so don't go anywhere. Cody, Monty, thanks y'all for jumping on. We were not prepared for this. We kind of thought in the back of our head it could happen, but we didn't know for sure it was going to happen. And then our wishes came true. So it's a new day in Panther Land here in Zamunda. So we'll see what old David Tepper decides to do with this franchise. So we're gonna end it right there. You've been watching and listening to a new episode of Embrace Debate here on the Fans First Sports Network, powered by the Keep Pounding Podcast Network. Keep pounding.